Woman went to orphanage to make donation and discovered her daughter had been there for 5 years. Sarah Johnson carried 3 heavy bags of used clothes when she pushed open the door of Hope Haven that Tuesday afternoon. For months, she had planned this donation, gathering items she no longer needed to help the underprivileged children of Portland, Oregon. "Mommy!" A high-pitched scream echoed down the hallway the moment her feet touched the cold floor of the reception area. Sarah felt her blood run cold. A little girl with brown hair ran toward her with open arms, her face lit up by a smile Sarah knew better than anything in the world. When the child threw herself into her arms, Sarah let the bags drop to the floor with a dull thud. "Emily," she whispered, barely able to breathe. The girl's blue eyes filled with tears as she clung tightly to Sarah's neck. It was impossible, but there was her daughter, 5 years older, wearing a simple dress and worn-out sneakers she had never seen before. "I knew you'd come back. I told everyone my mommy would come get me." Emily spoke between sobs, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. Sarah trembled when her eyes found the small crescent-shaped birthmark on the girl's neck. There was no doubt. It was Emily, her daughter, whom she believed had been living happily with her father in another state for the past 5 years. "Ma'am, are you all right?" A woman's voice brought her back to reality. Sarah looked up and saw a middle-aged woman approaching, wearing a white coat with Sister Grace embroidered on the chest. The nun's concerned expression turned to confusion when she noticed how Emily clung to the visitor. "Emily, sweetheart, you can't hug people like this," Sister Grace said gently. "Come here. Let the lady be." "No, this is my mommy," Emily shouted, tightening her embrace. "I told you she'd come get me. I told you." The girl's words echoed down the hall, drawing curious glances from other children and staff. Sarah felt the world spinning around her. 5 years. Emily had been in that orphanage for 5 years, since she was 3 years old. "I'm sorry, but there must be some mistake," Sister Grace said, trying to gently pull Emily away. "Emily has been with us since she was little. Her father brought her here when she was 3. "Her father?" Sarah could barely form the words. "What father?" "A man named Michael Thompson. He said the child's mother had abandoned her and that he couldn't care for her alone." Sarah's world completely collapsed. Michael Thompson was her ex-husband, Emily's father. For 5 years, he had convinced her that Emily was fine, living with him in Seattle, adjusting to her new life, and preferring no contact with her mother. "That's a lie," Sarah whispered, her legs growing weak. "Michael told me she was with him. He sent photos, messages." Sister Grace studied Sarah's face with growing recognition. There was something familiar about this woman, something that had bothered her for years whenever she looked at Emily. "Your name is—" "Sarah Johnson. Sarah Johnson Thompson, before the divorce," she replied, still holding Emily as if the girl might disappear at any moment. "Oh my God," the sister murmured, bringing a hand to her chest. "Emily always talked about a mommy named Sarah. We thought it was her imagination or a very faint memory from early childhood." Emily pulled back slightly to look directly into her mother's eyes. Tears streamed down her round face as she touched Sarah's cheeks with her small hands. "Mommy, why did you take so long? I made drawings for you every day. Sister Grace kept them all in a box under my bed." Every word from Emily felt like a knife to Sarah's heart. For 5 years, she had cried every night, thinking her daughter had forgotten her. Michael always said Emily was happy, that she had adjusted well and that it was better not to force contact that might confuse the child. "I need to speak to the director," said Sarah, trying to keep her voice steady. "Right now." Sister Grace nodded and led Sarah and Emily to a room at the end of the hallway. The other children followed curiously, whispering among themselves about the woman who had made Emily cry with joy. The director's office was simple, with white walls decorated with colorful drawings made by the children. Behind a dark wooden desk sat a gray-haired woman who stood as soon as they entered. "Mother Elizabeth, this is Sarah Johnson," Sister Grace introduced. "She claims to be Emily's mother." Mother Elizabeth observed the scene before her with experienced eyes. 20 years running that orphanage had taught her to recognize the truth when she saw it. The way Emily clung to that woman, their physical resemblance, the identical blue eyes. "Please have a seat," said the director, gesturing to the chairs in front of her. "Emily, sweetheart, are you sure this is your mommy?" "I am," Emily replied without hesitation. "She smells the way I remember, and she says my name the same way. And she knows about my little birthmark here on my neck." Mother Elizabeth opened a drawer and pulled out a folder of documents. Her hands trembled slightly as she flipped through the papers. "Mrs. Johnson, I need you to tell me your side of the story. How did Emily end up here if you're truly her mother?" Sarah took a deep breath, trying to gather her thoughts. Emily sat on her lap, playing with the necklace she wore, as if afraid her mother might disappear again. "Michael is my ex-husband, Emily's father. We divorced when she was 2, but we stayed civil for her sake. In 2019, he told me he'd gotten a great job in Seattle and that it would be better for Emily to go with him." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. "I didn't want to accept it at first," Sarah went on, stroking Emily's hair. "But he said she'd have more opportunities there, private school, better healthcare, and he promised I could visit whenever I wanted." "And what happened next?" Mother Elizabeth asked, taking notes. "At first, everything seemed normal. Michael sent photos of Emily, told me how well she was adjusting. But when I tried to schedule my first visit, he always had excuses. He said Emily was sick or had school events, or that she'd said she wasn't ready to see me yet." The words came painfully from Sarah's throat. 5 years of guilt and pain relived in that moment. Over time, the photos became rare. Michael said Emily was growing up and wanted privacy, that she'd made new friends and that I was part of her past. He sent messages through her WhatsApp, always very cold, calling me by my name, never Mommy. "Mommy, I never sent any messages," Emily exclaimed, lifting her little head. "I don't even have a phone." Mother Elizabeth and Sister Grace exchanged worried glances. Sarah's story was starting to make sense, but the implications were disturbing. "Mrs. Johnson," the director said carefully, "Michael Thompson brought Emily here in March 2019. He said her mother had abandoned her and that he didn't have the financial or emotional means to care for her alone." "That's a lie," Sarah shouted, startling Emily. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. "I never abandoned you. Never, ever." "He presented documents," continued Mother Elizabeth, consulting the folder. "A declaration of maternal abandonment signed by you and notarized." Sarah felt her blood boil. "What documents? I never signed anything like that. Never. Can I see those papers?" she asked, trying to stay calm in front of Emily. Mother Elizabeth hesitated for a moment, but then handed Sarah a few sheets. What she saw left her speechless. There was her signature, seemingly notarized, on a statement saying she relinquished all rights over Emily and agreed to the child's institutionalization. "This signature isn't mine," Sarah said, examining the papers carefully. "I mean, it looks like mine, but I didn't write this. I've never seen these documents in my life." "Mommy, you weren't going to give me away, were you?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "Never, my love. Never in a million years. You're the most important thing in the world to me," Sarah replied, hugging her daughter tightly. Sister Grace knelt in front of Emily. "Sweetheart, do you remember when you first came here? What your daddy said?" Emily thought for a moment, furrowing her brow in a familiar, concentrated expression. "He said he'd come back for me, that it was just for a few days until he found a new house, but he never came back." Her voice grew quieter. "He only visited me 3 times. The last time he said I had to forget he was my daddy because he was going to have a new family." Sarah felt sick. Michael had abandoned his own daughter to start a new life, and even forged documents to make it seem like it was her fault. "Emily," Mother Elizabeth said gently, "do you remember the name of the school you went to before coming here?" "Children's Garden School," Emily answered without hesitation. "It was near Grandma Margaret's house, Mommy's mom." Sarah began to cry. Emily remembered everything. The school, her grandmother, details only someone who had truly lived with them would know. "Mother Elizabeth," Sarah said, wiping her tears. I need to understand something. In 5 years, did no one ever try to contact me? Didn't anyone find it strange that the mother never showed up, never called? The director sighed heavily. Mrs. Johnson, I must admit we did try. In the first few months, before the abandonment declaration arrived, we attempted to reach you several times, but the phone numbers Michael provided never worked. He said you had moved away and started a new life, that you didn't want to be found. What numbers? My phone number hasn't changed in 7 years. Let me check, Mother Elizabeth said, returning to the documents. Here it is. The number on record was 11-95847-3621. Sarah pulled out her phone and showed the screen to the director. My number is 11-95847-3721. He changed just one digit. A simple trick, but effective. The revelation hit the room like a bomb. Michael had deliberately given the wrong number, one close enough to seem like a typo if questioned. There's one more thing, Sister Grace said hesitantly. Emily always had nightmares. Almost every night she'd wake up crying, calling for Mommy. She said you were coming back for her. It's true, Emily confirmed, nestling closer to Sarah. I dreamed you'd pick me up from school like before, but then I'd wake up and remember I was here. Sarah's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. While she lay awake at night wondering if her daughter missed her, Emily had been in an orphanage having nightmares and waiting for her. And the other children? Did they know Emily had a mother? They all knew, Mother Elizabeth replied. Emily never stopped talking about you. She described your home, her favorite games, the songs you sang together. The other children would even tease her, saying she made it all up. What mother would leave her daughter in an orphanage if she truly loved her? Sarah closed her eyes, trying to contain the anger growing inside her. Michael hadn't just abandoned Emily, he had destroyed both their lives with lies and forged documents. Mother Elizabeth, what do I need to do now? How can I take my daughter home? The director exchanged a worried glance with Sister Grace. Mrs. Johnson, I understand your situation completely, and I believe your version of events. But legally, Emily has been under our care for 5 years. There are procedures that must be followed. What kind of procedures? You'll need to file for custody reversal in family court. You'll have to prove the documents were forged and that Michael acted in bad faith. Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. More bureaucracy, more time away from Emily, more suffering for them both. How long could this take? With a good lawyer and the right evidence, a few months, but no guarantees. Emily stirred in her mother's lap and looked straight into her eyes. Mommy, are you taking me home today? The innocent question hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. How could she explain to an 8-year-old that even though they'd found each other, they still had to be apart? My love, Sarah said carefully, Mommy's going to do everything she can to bring you home as soon as possible, but there are some things I need to sort out first. Grown-up paperwork, the boring kind. But I don't want to stay here without you again, Emily cried, tears welling up. I waited 5 years. 5 years. The desperation in her voice echoed through the room, touching everyone present. Sister Grace stepped closer and placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder. What if we allowed daily visits, she suggested. While the legal matters are resolved, you could come every day, spend the whole day with Emily if you'd like. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than complete separation. Sarah nodded, grateful for the nun's understanding. Emily, would you like Mommy to come see you every day until we can go home? The girl stopped crying and nodded vigorously. Every single day? Even on Sundays? Every day, my love, I promise. Mother Elizabeth made a few notes and stood. I'll arrange a special permit for extended visits. I'll also provide a detailed statement about the circumstances of Emily's arrival here, which may help in court. Thank you, Sarah said, genuinely grateful. You don't know what this means to me. Actually, we do, Sister Grace said with a sad smile. We've worked with children for decades. We know when a mother truly loves her daughter. Emily climbed off Sarah's lap and ran to the door. I'll get my drawings. I want to show Mommy all of them. As the girl dashed down the hallway, the 3 women fell silent for a moment. The weight of the situation hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Mrs. Johnson, Mother Elizabeth finally said, I should warn you. Michael still visits occasionally, about once a year, usually near Emily's birthday. He comes here. Sarah stood abruptly. What does he say? He brings a few gifts, talks to Emily for a few minutes and leaves. The last time, about 3 months ago, he mentioned he'd remarried and that life was going well. Sarah's anger swelled into something even greater. Michael hadn't just destroyed their lives. He had the audacity to show up sporadically, acting like a devoted father fulfilling his duties. And Emily? How does she react when he comes? She gets confused, Sister Grace admitted. She always asks if he came to take her away, and she always gets sad when he leaves alone. During the last visit, she didn't even want to talk to him properly. Emily came running back to the room, carrying a shoebox decorated with colorful drawings. She was out of breath, but her eyes sparkled with happiness. "Look, Mommy, this is my treasure box," she said, placing the box on Mother Elizabeth's table. When Emily opened the box, Sarah had to hold back her tears. Dozens of drawings carefully folded and organized, all with the same theme: a woman and a little girl holding hands, always with a smiling sun in the corner of the paper. "This one is from your birthday last year," Emily said, picking up a more elaborate drawing. "And this one is from when I dreamed we went to the park. And this one is of our house. Do you remember our house, Mummy?" Sarah examined the drawing of the house. Emily had captured impressive details for a child. The blue front door, the round window in her bedroom, even the rose bush Sarah had planted in the garden. "I remember everything, sweetheart. Our house is still there waiting for you." "And my room? Is my princess bed still there?" "Yes, it is. I haven't touched a thing. Everything is exactly how you left it." In truth, that wasn't entirely accurate. Sarah had turned Emily's room into a sort of shrine. Every night she would go in there and arrange the toys as if Emily might return at any moment. Emily showed a few more drawings, explaining each one with the excitement of someone who finally had someone interested in listening. There were drawings of birthday parties, Christmas, and outings she imagined having with her mother. "Emily," Sarah said gently, "can you tell me about your life here? What do you like most and what don't you like?" The little girl thought for a moment, playing with the hem of her dress. "I like Sister Grace. She's really nice. And I like Jason. He's my best friend here. But I don't like bedtime, because that's when I get the saddest." "Why do you get sad at bedtime?" "Because that's when I miss you the most. Like when you used to sing to me before I fell asleep, remember? That butterfly song." Sarah couldn't hold back her tears. It was the lullaby she had made up just for Emily, based on a game they used to play together. "Little butterfly, fly away, go dream and rest," she began to sing softly. "And when you wake up tomorrow, Mommy will be here to play," Emily finished, clapping her hands. The song went on for a few more verses, with Emily singing every word perfectly. Mother Elizabeth and Sister Grace watched the scene with emotion, finally understanding the full extent of the tragedy that had unfolded here. When they finished singing, Emily hugged Sarah again. "Mommy, can you sing this song to me tonight?" "Of course I can, sweetheart. And tomorrow too, and the day after, and every day until you come home with me." The rest of the afternoon flew by. Sarah met the other children at the orphanage, who greeted Emily with an air of victory. "I told you Emily's mom would show up," said a boy named Jason, who must have been about 10. Sarah also had a long talk with Sister Grace about Emily's routine, her eating habits, her struggles at school, her fears and joys. 5 years' worth of information a mother should know about her own daughter, but which she had lost because of Michael's lies. When it was time to leave, Emily clung to her mother as if her life depended on it. "You promise you'll come back early tomorrow?" "I promise, sweetheart. Bright and early before you even have breakfast." "And will you bring your clothes for when we go home?" Sarah laughed through her tears. "I'll bring everything, including some new clothes for you, because this princess has grown so much in these 5 years." Emily gave a proud little smile. "I really have grown. Now I can read and write, and I can do hard math problems." "What a clever girl. Tomorrow you can show me everything you've learned, okay?" After much difficulty, Sarah managed to say goodbye to Emily and leave the orphanage. But instead of going straight home, She drove to a shopping mall and spent 2 hours in a toy store, buying everything she thought Emily might like. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next morning, Sarah arrived at Hope Haven at 7 o'clock, carrying 3 bags full of presents and new clothes for Emily. The little girl was waiting for her at the dining hall window and ran to the door as soon as she saw her mother's car park. "Mommy, you really came back," Emily shouted, jumping into Sarah's arms. "I told you I would, didn't I? And look what I brought for you," Sarah said, showing her the bags. They spent the whole morning in the orphanage's backyard, with Emily trying on her new clothes and playing with the toys her mother had brought. The other children joined them, turning it into an impromptu celebration that filled the place with laughter and joy. But in the afternoon, as Sarah was helping Emily organize her new belongings, Sister Grace approached with a worried expression. "Mrs. Sarah, I need to speak with you privately," the nun said, motioning to a quieter corner of the yard. Sarah told Emily to keep playing and stepped aside with Sister Grace. "Did something happen?" "Michael called a little while ago. He found out you were here yesterday and is on his way now. He sounded very upset." Sarah's blood boiled. "He's coming here now. He should arrive in about an hour. Mrs. Sarah, perhaps it's best if you leave before he gets here. We don't want to create an uncomfortable scene in front of the children." "Absolutely not," Sarah replied, louder than she intended. "I'm not running from him. I want to see the nerve he has to look me in the eye after what he did." "I understand your anger, but—" "No, you don't," Sarah interrupted. "You didn't spend 5 years believing your daughter hated you. 5 years crying every night, blaming yourself, wondering what you did wrong. He owes me answers, and I'm getting them today." Sister Grace sighed. "Very well. But please keep the discussion away from the children. They've already seen too much hardship in their lives." Sarah nodded and returned to Emily, who was sorting her old drawings alongside her new toys. The girl noticed the tension in her mother's face. "Did something happen, Mommy?" "It's nothing important, sweetheart. Keep playing and I'll be right back." But Emily wasn't foolish. Even at just 8 years old, she had developed a sharp sensitivity to adults' emotions. 5 years in an orphanage had taught her that. "It's Daddy, isn't it? Sister Grace said he calls sometimes." Sarah knelt in front of her daughter. "Emily, if your father shows up today, do you want to talk to him?" The girl thought for a long moment, nervously fiddling with a new doll. "I want to ask him why he brought me here, and why he said you didn't want me anymore." "He told you that?" "Yes. The last time he came here, I asked why you never visited. He said you had a new life and didn't care about me." Sarah wanted to scream. Michael hadn't just abandoned Emily. He had poisoned the girl's mind against her own mother. "Emily, my love, that was never true. Not for a single second. Every day for these 5 years I've thought of you, cried for you, dreamed of you. If I had known where you were, I would have come to get you on the very first day." "I know, Mum. Deep down, I always knew he was lying. That's why I kept making the drawings and waiting for you." An hour later, the sound of a car screeching to a halt in the parking lot announced Michael's arrival. Sarah felt her heart race, but stood firm beside Emily in the backyard. Michael Thompson was an ordinary-looking man, with dark hair streaked with grey and brown eyes. He wore a well-pressed suit and drove a new car, signs that his life had prospered in recent years. But when his eyes met Sarah's, his confident expression turned to pure panic. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" he asked, trying to keep his tone casual as he approached. "I came to make a donation," Sarah replied, slowly standing up. "And I just happened to discover that my daughter has been here for 5 years. Quite the coincidence, isn't it, Michael?" Michael looked at Emily, who was hiding behind her mother, then back at Sarah. "Look, I can explain—" "You can explain?" Sarah took a few steps forward, shielding Emily behind the other children. "Can you explain how you forged my signature? How you lied to me for 5 years? How you abandoned your own daughter?" "It wasn't like that," Michael said, nervously running a hand through his hair. "Things got complicated. I couldn't take care of her alone." "Liar!" Sarah shouted. "You told me she was living with you in Seattle. You sent fake photos, fake messages. made me believe she was fine and didn't want to see me. Michael glanced around, noticing the children and staff of Hope Haven watching the argument. Mother Elizabeth and Sister Grace stepped closer, clearly tense. "Let's talk in private," Michael said, reaching for Sarah's arm. "Don't touch me." Sarah jerked away. "There's no private conversation here. I want everyone to know exactly what kind of person you are." Emily stepped out from behind the other children and approached timidly. "Daddy, why did you tell Mom she couldn't see me?" Michael was speechless for a moment, staring at his daughter with a mix of guilt and desperation. "Emily, Things are complicated, sweetheart." "They're not complicated," Emily said, with surprising maturity for her age. "You lied, to me and to Mom. Why?" "Because he's a coward," Sarah answered. "Because he didn't want to take responsibility for being a father and chose to blame me for everything." Michael's temper flared. "You don't know anything, Sarah. You don't know how hard it was for me after the divorce." "Hard?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "You think it was hard for you? I spent 5 years believing my daughter hated me. 5 years blaming myself, wondering what I did wrong." "I never hated you, Mom," Emily said, running to hug Sarah's legs. "I always loved you." Michael watched the scene, and for a moment, he seemed genuinely remorseful. "Sarah, I know I made mistakes, but—" "Mistakes?" Sarah was shaking with anger. "Abandoning your daughter in an orphanage isn't a mistake, Michael. It's cruelty. Forging documents isn't a mistake. It's a crime. Lying to a child's mother for 5 years isn't a mistake. It's pure evil." "I was going to get her when things got better," Michael defended himself. "When? When she turned 18? When you had no obligation left to her?" Mother Elizabeth stepped between them. "Please, let's stay calm in front of the children." "You're right," Sarah said, taking a deep breath. "Michael, I want you to look your daughter in the eyes and explain to her why she spent 5 years in an orphanage while you made me believe she was safe." Michael looked at Emily, who stared back at him with her blue eyes full of held-back tears. "Emily, sweetheart, Daddy was going through a hard time." "You said you'd come back for me," Emily interrupted. "You said it was only for a few days." "I know, honey, but... And why did you say Mommy didn't want to see me? Why did you lie?" Michael couldn't answer. He lowered his gaze, clearly ashamed in the face of his daughter's innocent question. "He can't answer," Sarah said, "because there is no answer. There's no excuse for what he did to you, to both of us." "Sarah, you don't understand," Michael tried again. "I got remarried. My wife can't have children. It would have been complicated." The confession slipped out before he could stop himself. The whole backyard fell silent for a moment, absorbing what they had just heard. "So that's it," Sarah said, her voice quiet but heavy with anger. "You abandoned your daughter because your new wife can't have kids, and it would have been complicated to explain you already had a child." "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," Sarah shouted. "You chose your new life and decided Emily didn't belong in it. And on top of that, you made me the villain in all of this." Emily began crying silently, finally understanding the situation. At 8 years old, she realized her father had chosen another family and left her behind. "Daddy, do you have a new family?" she asked between sobs. Michael couldn't answer. He looked at his daughter, then at Sarah, then at all the people watching him with disapproval. "Emily, sweetheart, He does," Sarah answered, kneeling beside her daughter. "And in his new family, there's no room for you. But in our family, in our home, there always has been and always will be." Michael tried to step closer, but Emily shrank back, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. "I don't want to talk to him, Mommy." "You don't have to, sweetheart. You don't have to talk to anyone who hurts you." "Emily, please," Michael begged. "Let Daddy explain." "No!" Emily turned to him angrily. "You're not my daddy. Real daddies don't abandon their kids." The little girl's words echoed across the yard, silencing even the other children. Michael stood frozen for a long moment, seeming to finally grasp the weight of what he'd done. Sister Grace approached. "Mr. Thompson, I think it's best if you leave. This is too much for Emily right now." "I have rights," Michael said weakly. "I'm her father." "What rights?" Sarah asked, standing up. "You gave up any rights when you left her here, and you forged documents to pin the blame on me." "I can prove those documents are fake," Sarah continued. "I have a lawyer handling the case. Soon everyone will know the truth about what you did." Michael paled. "Sarah, we don't need lawyers. We can work this out ourselves." "Work it out? There's nothing to work out, Michael. There's only justice. Emily is coming home with me where she always should have been, and you'll answer for every forged document you signed." "And if I refuse?" Sarah laughed humorlessly. "You don't have a choice. Emily doesn't want to stay with you. She wants to stay with me, and I have proof you lied and forged papers. What do you think will happen when a judge sees that?" Michael knew he was beaten. He looked one last time at Emily, who was still hiding behind her mother, and sighed heavily. "Emily," he said, "Daddy is so sorry for everything. I never meant for things to turn out this way." Emily didn't answer. She just clung tighter to Sarah's skirt, making it clear she wanted nothing more to do with her father. "Bye, Daddy," she finally said, not looking at him. "Don't come back." Michael stood still for a few more seconds, then turned and slowly walked back to the car. Before getting in, he took one last look at the orphanage, at the daughter he had lost forever because of his own selfish choices. When Michael's car disappeared down the street, Emily finally relaxed. She turned to Sarah with eyes still glistening but a timid smile on her lips. "Mommy, can I go home now?" Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead. "Not yet, sweetheart, but it'll be much easier now. Your father won't interfere anymore, and soon, very soon, we'll be home." That night, Sarah didn't want to leave. She got permission to sleep at the orphanage, in a single bed next to Emily's. For the first time in 5 years, Emily slept without nightmares, lulled by the little butterfly song her mother softly sang. The next morning, Sarah went to see family law attorney Dr. William Parker. His office was in downtown Portland, a simple but organized room with shelves full of legal codes and certificates on the walls. "Mrs. Johnson," Dr. Parker said after hearing the whole story, "your case is quite clear from a legal standpoint. We have forged documents, abandonment of a dependent, and a child who clearly expresses her wish to stay with her mother. How long could the process take? With the evidence you have, and especially with Michael's confession yesterday, I'd say a few weeks. Maybe 2 months at most." Sarah sighed in relief. Is there any chance they'll side with him? None. He abandoned the child and falsified documents. That's a crime, Mrs. Johnson. He should be worried about facing criminal charges, not keeping custody of Emily. Do you think he might try anything? Dr. Parker shook his head. Men like Michael Thompson are usually cowards. When confronted with the consequences of their actions, they run. I doubt he'll cause any more trouble. And Dr. Parker was right. In the following weeks, Michael never returned to the orphanage or attempted to contact Sarah or Emily. In fact, 2 weeks later, Mother Elizabeth received a call from Michael's lawyer, formally stating he was relinquishing all rights to Emily. During that time, Sarah spent every day at the orphanage. She arrived early in the morning and only left after Emily fell asleep. Little by little, she got to know the daughter she had lost for 5 years. Emily had grown into an independent and mature girl for her age. She knew how to take care of her clothes, organized her own school supplies, and had developed a strong sense of justice. She always stood up for the younger children when someone bothered them and shared her toys without being asked. She's a special child, Sister Grace told Sarah one afternoon. Even after everything she's been through, Emily never lost her joy or her ability to love. She's always been like that, Sarah replied, watching Emily play with the other children. Even as a little girl, she was generous and affectionate. You should be proud. The values you taught her in her early years stayed with her all this time. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. But not everything was perfect. Emily still had occasional nightmares and sometimes grew restless when Sarah was late arriving or had to leave. The fear of abandonment was deeply rooted in her, a result of 5 years of uncertainty and dashed hope. It's normal, explained the orphanage psychologist, Dr. Jennifer Miller. Emily has developed a very strong abandonment trauma. It will take time for her to fully trust that she won't be left behind again. What can I do to help her? Keep doing what you're doing. Be consistent. Be predictable. Always arrive at the time you promised. Always leave when you said you would. Little by little, she'll regain her trust. Sarah followed the advice to the letter. Every day she arrived exactly at 8 in the morning and stayed until 9 at night. She created a strict routine so Emily would always know what to expect. 1 month after the reunion, Dr. William Parker called with good news. "Mrs. Johnson, the judge accepted our request for an expedited hearing. The court date is set for next Friday." "And what will happen at the hearing?" "It'll be quite simple. The judge will listen to Emily, review the evidence we have, and if everything goes as we hope, you'll leave with temporary custody." "Will Emily have to speak to the judge?" "Yes, but it'll be in a private setting, just the judge and a social worker. It's standard procedure to ensure the decision is made in the child's best interest." The night before the hearing, Emily was nervous. She tossed and turned in bed, asking Sarah 1,000 questions. "Mommy, what if the judge doesn't let me go with you?" "That won't happen, sweetheart. The judge will see how much we love each other and that we belong together." "What if he asks hard questions?" "You just need to tell the truth, Emily. Say what you feel, what you want. There's no right or wrong answer, only what's in your heart." "I want to stay with you, Mommy, forever." "And that's exactly what you'll tell the judge, my love." The morning of the hearing, Sarah woke up earlier than usual. Emily was already awake, sitting on the bed, hugging a doll Sarah had brought her. "Mommy, is today the day?" "Today's the day, my princess. Are you ready?" Emily nodded firmly. "I'm ready to go home." The Portland Courthouse was an imposing building in the city center, with long hallways and numbered rooms. Dr. Parker met them at the entrance and escorted them to the courtroom. Judge Robert Wilson of the Family Court Division was a middle-aged man with graying hair and kind eyes. He greeted Sarah and Emily warmly, putting them at ease. "Emily," the judge said, "do you know why you're here today?" "Yes, it's to decide if I can go live with my mommy again." "And is that what you want?" "It's what I want more than anything in the whole world," Emily answered without hesitation. The judge asked a few questions about Emily's life at the orphanage, her memories of her early years with Sarah, and how she felt about her father. Emily answered everything honestly and clearly, impressing everyone with her maturity. "Emily, do you understand that if I let you go live with your mother, you won't return to the orphanage?" "I understand, and I never want to go back there, not because the people are bad, they're really nice, but because an orphanage isn't the place for a girl who has a mommy." Emily's answer touched everyone in the room. The judge smiled and made a few notes. "All right, Emily. Now I'll speak with your mother, and then we'll settle everything." Sarah was questioned about her financial stability, her emotional readiness, and her plans for Emily's future. She answered everything confidently, showing she had prepared for this moment for years. Dr. Parker presented all the evidence of the forged documents, including the handwriting analysis, proving the signature wasn't Sarah's. He also played the recording of Michael's confession at the orphanage, which Sister Grace had recorded with Mother Elizabeth's permission. After an hour-long hearing, the judge stepped out to deliberate. Sarah and Emily waited nervously, but hopefully in the lobby. "Mommy, how long will the judge take?" Emily asked, swinging her legs in the chair. "I don't know, my love, but whatever the decision is, we'll stay together. I promise." 20 minutes later, the judge returned with a smile on his face. "Miss Emily, could you come here for a moment?" Emily approached the judge, who knelt to be at her eye level. "Emily, I've decided you can go live with your mother today. What do you think about that?" Emily began to cry with joy. "Really? I can go home today?" "Yes, you can. Your mother has temporary custody of you, and in a few months it will become permanent." Emily ran to hug Sarah, who was also crying. "Mommy, we're going home. We're going home." "Yes, my love. Finally, we're going home." Dr. William Parker congratulated Sarah and explained the next steps in the process. In 6 months, there would be a final hearing to make the custody permanent, but that would just be a formality. When they left the courthouse, Sarah and Emily went straight to Hope Haven to pick up the girls' belongings. The other children threw a farewell party, complete with cake and soda. Emily cried as she said goodbye to her friends, promising to visit them often. "Jason, you're my best friend in the whole world," Emily said, hugging the boy who had been her companion all those years. "Do you promise you'll come back to visit?" Jason asked, also crying. "I promise." And do you promise you'll study hard so you can find a new family? I promise. Mother Elizabeth and Sister Grace said goodbye to Emily with tears in their eyes. They had cared for the girl for 5 years, watching her grow and thrive even in difficult circumstances. Emily, you'll never forget what you learned here, right? Mother Elizabeth said. The importance of helping others, being generous, and having faith. I'll never forget, Emily promised. And when I grow up, I'll come back to help you take care of the other children. At 5 in the afternoon, Sarah and Emily finally left Hope Haven. Emily carried her box of drawings and a backpack with her clothes. Everything else, the new toys, books, and keepsakes, was already in the car. During the drive home, Emily sat quietly, looking out the window and holding Sarah's hand. When they reached their street, she recognized everything immediately. "Mommy, look! Mr. Harris's house still has those little dog figurines in the window, and Mrs. Wilson still has the purple flowers in her garden." Sarah smiled. Emily remembered every detail of the neighborhood, even after 5 years. When the car stopped in front of the blue house with the white gate, Emily jumped out and ran. The house was exactly as she remembered, small but cozy, with a well-kept garden and the rose bush she had helped plant still blooming. "Can I go in, Mummy?" "Of course, my love, this is your home." Emily ran to the front door but stopped before touching the knob. "Mummy, are you sure everything will be just like before?" Sarah knelt beside her daughter. "No, Emily, it won't be like before. It'll be much better because now we know how precious it is to be together." Emily smiled and opened the door. The house smelled of cleanliness and fresh flowers. Sarah had spent the last few days preparing everything for her daughter's arrival. "My room!" Emily shouted, running down the hallway. When she opened the bedroom door, Emily froze in the doorway, her mouth open. The room was exactly as she remembered, but better. The princess bed was made with new pink sheets. Toys were neatly arranged on the shelves. New books filled the bookcase. And on the wall, Sarah had hung all the drawings Emily had made at Hope Haven. "Mommy, you kept everything!" Emily exclaimed, running to inspect every corner of the room. "I told you I did, didn't I? I never doubted you'd come home." Emily threw herself onto the bed and curled up under the comforter, breathing in the familiar scent. "Mommy, can I sleep here tonight?" Sarah laughed. "You'll sleep here every day, my love. This is your room, in your home, with your family." That night, after a simple but special dinner, Sarah gave Emily a bath and dressed her in the favorite pajamas she had saved all those years. When she tucked her daughter into bed, Emily took her hand. "Mommy, will you sing the Little Butterfly song?" "Of course I will, my princess." As she sang the lullaby she had created especially for Emily, Sarah watched her daughter's face relax. 5 years of suffering and separation had finally come to an end. "Mommy," Emily whispered when the song ended. "Yes, my love. I love you more than all the drawings I made, more than all the stars in the sky, more than anything in the world," Sarah finished, repeating a game they used to play when Emily was little. "More than anything in the world, and more than anything that will ever be," Emily whispered, her eyes already closed. Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead and sat there for another hour, just watching Emily sleep. It was hard to believe this was real, that after 5 years of nightmares, they were finally together again. In the following months, Emily quickly adapted to life at home. She returned to the same school she had left at 3 years old, made new friends, and gradually reclaimed the childhood she had lost. But not everything was easy. Emily still had bouts of anxiety, especially when Sarah was late coming home from work or when they had to be apart for any reason. Therapy with Dr. Jennifer Miller continued, now twice a week. "It's normal," the psychologist explained. Emily spent years believing the people she loved could disappear without warning. It will take time for her to fully trust the stability of this situation. 3 months after their reunion, Emily had her first major episode. Sarah had gone out to buy ingredients for dinner and said she'd be back in an hour, but traffic was terrible and she was 40 minutes late. When she got home, she found Emily crying desperately in her room, clutching her box of drawings. "My love, what happened?" Sarah asked, rushing to hug her daughter. "I thought you left, that you'd left me again," Emily sobbed. Sarah's heart broke. "Emily, my love, I will never ever leave you again. I was just late because of traffic. But you said an hour. It's been almost 2. Sarah realized she had underestimated Emily's trauma. For a child who had been abandoned, every delay was a potential threat of being left again. "Emily, let's make a deal," Sarah said, wiping her daughter's tears. "If I'm going to be more than 15 minutes late, I'll always call you. And if there's a problem with the phone, I'll ask a neighbor to let you know, okay?" Emily nodded, still sniffling. "What if you have an accident?" The question haunted Sarah. Emily had developed an overactive imagination for worst-case scenarios, a natural result of years of uncertainty. "If anything happens to me, the first thing I'll do is find a way to let you know. And even if something does happen, you have Grandma Margaret, you have Sister Grace, you have so many people who love you and will never leave you alone." Little by little, with love and patience, Emily overcame her fears. Sarah created rituals to reassure her. They always said goodbye with a special hug. They always set exact return times, and Sarah always called if she was even 5 minutes late. The final custody hearing took place 6 months after their reunion. This time, it was just a formality. The judge spoke briefly with Emily and Sarah, reviewed the social worker's report and signed the paperwork. "There," Judge Robert Wilson said. Judge Robert Wilson smiled. "It's now official. Emily Johnson Thompson is under the permanent custody of her mother, Mrs. Sarah Johnson." "Forever?" asked Emily. "Forever," confirmed the judge. When they left the courthouse this time, Emily was beaming. "Mommy, now no one can ever take me away from you again. Never again, my love. Now we're a complete and official family." That night, they celebrated with pizza and ice cream while watching Emily's favorite movies. Before bed, Emily wanted to show Sarah a new drawing she had made. It was different from all the others. Instead of just one woman and a little girl, it showed a house full of people. Sarah and Emily in the center, surrounded by Grandma Margaret, Sister Grace, Mother Elizabeth, Jason and other children from the orphanage, Dr. William Parker, Dr. Jennifer Miller, and even some neighbors. "It's our whole family," Emily explained, "because family isn't just who you live with, right, Mummy? It's everyone who loves us." Sarah smiled, moved by her daughter's wisdom. "That's true, my love, and what a big, beautiful family we have." A year after their reunion, Sarah made an important decision. She created a project to help other families going through similar situations. She named it the Lost Butterfly Project, after the song she always sang to Emily. The project offered free legal support for mothers who had lost contact with their children due to questionable legal maneuvers, as well as psychological support for children separated from their families. "Mummy, why do you want to help other people?" Emily asked when Sarah explained the project. "Because no one should go through what we went through, my love. And if we can stop it from happening to other families, then our suffering had a purpose." Emily thought for a moment, then smiled. "Can I help too? Can I talk to the sad kids because I know how it feels?" Sarah hugged her daughter, proud of the empathy she had developed. "Of course you can, sweetheart. You'll be a big help." The Lost Butterfly Project started small, operating on weekends in a room borrowed from the neighborhood church, but it quickly gained recognition. Within 2 years, it had reunited over 50 families, and Sarah and Emily's story had inspired changes in local legislation regarding child abandonment documentation. Emily, now 10 years old, became a kind of ambassador for the project. She spoke with other children going through traumatic separations, always bringing her box of drawings as proof that hope should never be lost. "I made one drawing every day for 5 years," Emily told the other children, "and on the last drawing I made at the orphanage I wrote, 'Tomorrow Mommy will come get me.' And the next day, she really did." One afternoon, 3 years after their reunion, Emily came home from school with a thoughtful expression. Sarah noticed her daughter's unusual mood during dinner. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" "Mommy, today at school the teacher asked what our biggest dream was, and I didn't know what to say." "Why not?" "Because my biggest dream was always to come home with you, and that already happened, so now I don't know what my new dream is." Sarah smiled. "What a wonderful problem to have, isn't it? It means you're happy with your life." "I'm really happy," Emily confirmed, "but I think I want a new dream." "And what would that be?" Emily thought for a long moment, playing with her food. I think I want to help other kids like we do in the project. When I grow up, I want to be a social worker or a lawyer, like what Dr. William did for us. What a beautiful dream, Emily. And I know you'll make it happen. Mommy? Yes? Do you think Michael, do you think he regrets what he did? It was a question Sarah had been expecting for a long time. Emily was growing up and starting to process the situation more maturely. I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so, because regret means the person learned from their mistakes. Do you think he ever thinks about me? I'm sure he does. It's impossible not to think about a girl as special as you. I don't feel angry at him anymore, Emily said surprisingly. I feel sorry for him. Sorry? Yes. Because he lost the chance to watch me grow up, to really know me. His loss was much greater than ours, because we found each other again, but he lost us forever. Sarah was struck by her daughter's emotional maturity. At just 11 years old, Emily had developed an understanding of forgiveness and resilience that many adults take decades to achieve. 5 years after their reunion, on Emily's 13th birthday, an unexpected surprise arrived. An envelope was delivered to their home with no return address, containing only a handwritten letter. Emily was at school when it arrived, so Sarah opened it alone. The letter was from Michael. Sarah, I know I have no right to write to you after everything I did. I know I caused pain I never should have. But today, on Emily's birthday, I couldn't stay silent. Every day for these past 8 years, I've thought about what I did. Every day I regret every lie, every forged document, every moment I stole from the two of you. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. I'm not asking to see Emily because I know I lost that right forever. I just want you to know that I understand I was a coward and that Emily was lucky to have a mother like you. Enclosed with this letter are all the original documents I falsified, the real photos of Emily I kept, and a savings account I opened in her name with all the money I've saved over the years. It's not to buy forgiveness. It's just because she deserves a secure future. Emily, if you ever read this letter, I want you to know you were always a special girl, and the mistake was mine, never yours. Your mother is the strongest and bravest person I've ever known, and you're lucky to be her daughter. Take care. Be happy. Michael. Sarah finished the letter with tears in her eyes. Along with it was a folder containing all the mentioned documents and a savings account statement in Emily's name with nearly 100,000 rials. When Emily came home from school, Sarah showed her the letter. Emily read it silently, her face calm. What do you think? Sarah asked when Emily finished. I think he really regrets it, Emily said simply. And I think that's good for him, even if it doesn't change anything for us. Do you want to reply? Emily thought for a long moment. I do, but not now. Maybe when I'm older, when I understand everything that happened better. And the money, can we use it for the Lost Butterfly project? I think it would be a nice way to turn something bad into something good. Sarah smiled, once again amazed by her daughter's wisdom. I think that's a perfect idea. And that's what they did. The money from the savings account was used to expand the project, which moved into its own headquarters and began serving families across the region. Emily, still a teenager, became one of the project's main speakers, sharing her story to inspire other children. At 17, as Emily was preparing for college entrance exams, she received an unexpected offer. A television producer wanted to make a documentary about her story and the Lost Butterfly project. Mum, do you think we should do it? Emily asked. It depends, Sarah replied. Why do you think they want to make this documentary? To show that there's always hope, even in the hardest situations. And to help other families who might be going through the same thing we did. So I think we should accept. The documentary, Lost Butterfly, a story of love and reunion, aired 2 years later when Emily was already in law school. The program had a huge impact, inspiring the creation of similar projects across the country. Emily, now 19, watched the documentary alongside her mother at a special screening organized by her university. "Mom," Emily said when the program ended, "do you regret anything about this whole story?" Sarah thought for a moment. "I regret not fighting harder at the beginning, for accepting Michael's lies so easily. What about you?" "I don't regret anything," Emily said surprisingly. "Not even the 5 years at the orphanage." "How so?" "Because that's where I learned to be strong, to hold on to hope even when everything seemed lost. That's where I met other children who needed love, and I learned that we can always help someone, even when we're hurting ourselves." Emily paused, looking at the screen where the documentary's credits were still rolling. "If I hadn't gone through all of that, maybe I never would have decided to help other families. Maybe our story never would have inspired others. Do you think all the suffering was worth it?" "I don't know if it was worth it," Emily answered honestly, "but I know we turned that suffering into something good, and that makes all the difference." That night when they got home, Emily went to her room and opened her desk drawer. From it, she pulled out a yellowed, carefully folded piece of paper. It was the last drawing she had made at the orphanage, where she had written, "Mommy will come get me tomorrow." "Mom, remember this?" Sarah examined the drawing, moved. "How could I forget? It was the drawing you showed me on the first day." "I kept it all these years," Emily said. "And do you know why?" "Why?" "To remind myself that dreams might take time to come true, but if we don't stop dreaming, they always do." Emily placed the drawing in a frame and hung it on her bedroom wall, next to a photo of the two of them taken the day they left the orphanage. "Now it'll stay here forever," Emily said, "to remind me never to give up on my dreams, and to remember that a mother's love is the most powerful force in the world." 2 weeks later, Emily turned 20 and graduated from law school with the highest marks in her class. In her graduation speech, she dedicated her diploma to her mother and to all the children still waiting for a reunion. "I've learned that family isn't defined by documents or biology," Emily told the audience. "Family is defined by love, by dedication, by the willingness to fight for each other, even when everything seems lost." Sarah, sitting in the front row, couldn't hold back her tears of pride. Her little girl had become an incredible young woman, full of compassion and determination. After graduation, Emily announced her decision. She would specialize in family law and work full-time with the Lost Butterfly Project, which had now become a nationally recognized non-profit organization. "Mom, I want to turn our story into an instrument of change. I don't want any family to go through what we did. And I'll always be by your side," Sarah promised, and so they did. Mother and daughter working together, turning the pain of the past into hope for the future. The Lost Butterfly Project became a national model for family reunification, and Sarah and Emily's story inspired changes in US legislation on child custody. Today, 10 years after their reunion, Emily is a respected lawyer specializing in family law, and the project she and her mother created has reunited over 500 families. Sarah, at 52 years old, divides her time between coordinating the project and being a grandmother, since Emily got married and has a young daughter, whom she named Hope. On the wall of the Lost Butterfly Project headquarters, there's a framed photo. Sarah hugging Emily on the day they reunited at the orphanage. Below the photo, a phrase that became the organization's motto: "A family's love has no expiration date. It's never too late for a reunion." Every week, Emily shares her story with new families who join the project, and she always ends it the same way. No matter how much time has passed, no matter how many lies were told, no matter how many obstacles stand in the way, if there's true love, there's always a path back home. And when a child asks if she still holds a grudge against the father who abandoned her, Emily answers with the wisdom that only suffering and overcoming can teach. "I've learned that holding on to anger is like carrying a heavy rock in your backpack. It doesn't hurt the one who hurt us. It only makes our journey harder. I'd rather carry hope, which is as light as a little butterfly and helps me soar higher and higher." And so the story that began with abandonment and lies became a beautiful tale about the strength of a mother's love, the importance of hope, and the transformative power of forgiveness. Sarah and Emily proved that even in the most desperate situations, there's always a chance to start over, to rebuild, to reunite. The girl who once wrote, "Mommy will come get me tomorrow," grew up to become a woman who dedicates her life to helping other children write their own happy endings. And the mother who never stopped searching became living proof that a mother's love can move mountains, tear down walls, and bring hearts together, no matter how far apart they've been. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story about Sarah and Emily. Have you ever been through a similar situation or know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us about your experiences. Did you like the story? Don't forget to leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one. Thank you for joining us.